Welcome to this edition of Inside the Locker Room. I'm Gabe Farias.
And I'm Johnny Walker.
And on this show, we are going to be talking about the NFL draft, specifically a couple of quarterbacks that went number one, Lamar Jackson and Baker Mayfield. We're also going to be talking about a new football league that's in the formulation process as we speak.
And finally, we'll be talking about the Commission to Reform College Basketball. All that and more on Inside the Locker Room.
40% of food in America is never eaten.
And welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. Gabe Farias and Johnny Walker. Johnny, the NFL draft just took place.
Yes.
A couple of quarterbacks sandwiched in the first round. Baker Mayfield goes to the Browns with the number one pick. Lamar Jackson goes to the Baltimore Ravens in the 32nd pick. Two outstanding quarterbacks in two separate spots of the NFL draft. I personally thought Lamar Jackson should have gone much, much higher in the NFL draft. You look at some of the stats, over 9,000 yards passing in his time at Louisville. He 119 total touchdowns. Just a fantastic athlete. Baker Mayfield, over 14,000 yards amongst his career. Do you think they got it right? Do you think both of those quarterbacks ended up where they needed to go?
First of all, I wanted to congratulate and thank Ozzie Smith and the Baltimore Ravens organization for drafting Lamar Jackson in the first round, because he definitely deserved to be there.
And there was talk he wasn't even going to go in the first round.
And again, that's why I'm very excited about what Ozzie Smith and the Baltimore Ravens organization did. There's no question that Lamar Jackson will go down as one of the greatest college quarterbacks of all time. The past 2 years, he threw for over 3,500 yards passing and 1,500 yards
each
rushing. Each season.
Yeah.
He was a Heisman Trophy winner in 2016. He's a two-time ACC Player of the Year. Stat-wise, there's no comparison. He was definitely one of the top quarterbacks that was coming into this draft.
Absolutely.
There's no reason why he should have been the 32nd pick in the draft. And I think that everybody was trying to find reasons as to why we couldn't draft Lamar Jackson higher than what he did get drafted. But I think that the one thing that I admire about the young man is the way that he handled it. His post-draft interview with Deion Sanders, he was very frank in saying that the Baltimore Ravens are going to get a Super Bowl out of me, and you can bet on that. And I think that that's the way to handle it. He said, I've got 2 chips on my shoulders, and I've got a lot to prove. Even though he's proved it as a collegiately, he's ready to do everything he can to prove it as an NFL football player.
And on the football field, I almost see this as a Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre kind of situation where the Green Bay Packers, they drafted who they knew was going to be the heir apparent. Boy, did they get that one right or what?
They did.
Flacco is going into, I believe, a contract year this year.
Contract year.
But it's pretty fair to assume that Lamar Jackson is the long-term solution for the Baltimore Ravens at quarterback.
I don't think there's any question.
Sure.
They're kind of like in a similar situation with the Kansas City Chiefs, where Alex Smith was in a contract year, and they had Patrick Mahomes sit out that year, and they wound up trading Alex Smith, and Patrick Mahomes is now going to be the starting quarterback. I think we're going to see a similar situation like that with the Baltimore Ravens. Now, keep in mind, they do also have Robert Griffin III, so they also have someone there who's kind of similar in traits to Lamar Jackson, who can also help tutelage and help him get along and help him get better as he progresses in his NFL career.
Baker Mayfield. Let's talk quickly about Baker Mayfield. A sensational quarterback, a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, to say the very least. Himself, Heisman Trophy winner. How did he end up climbing? Because he's not the most prototypical guy. Very accurate quarterback. Again, over 14,000 yards passing over his 4-year stellar college football career. How did he end up as the number one pick?
I'm not going to take anything from Baker Mayfield. I would not have drafted him with the very first pick. But I will say that the one thing, the intangibles that Baker Mayfield had, is that he's been a leader. He's been a competitor. And I don't think there's any question that when you watch him play, he's one of the guys that his teammates rally around. So I'll give him that. But as far as being the first pick, I think they did get it wrong with that. But I think Cleveland was looking more for that rah-rah type quarterback that had that upside to them. They were looking for that. I personally think that if they were going to do that and they were looking for that, they should have just re-signed Johnny Manziel.
Yeah.
They should have brought Johnny Football back. If you were looking for that, it was the same thing that he was.
Well, you look at it, you're like, okay, undersized quarterback,
Yep.
stellar college career,
Yes.
Heisman Trophy winner
Yes.
from the Texas Hill Country,
Yes.
who has some off-the-field issues. Man, those guys are like twins.
That's who I just would have re-signed Johnny Manziel, and I would have drafted probably Saquon Barkley with my first pick.
Let's get to Lamar Jackson.
Yes.
Because you look at him on paper. If you never
Mm-hmm.
watched the kid, or if you watched the kid
Mm-hmm.
and knew nothing other than he was a football player,
Yes.
plain and simple, you see what he did from a stat standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably the fastest quarterback to ever play the game, if not the fastest, one of the fastest
Yes, of
to
all
ever
time,
play
yeah.
the game. Again, why didn't he go higher in the draft?
That's a good question. And I think everybody was really trying to find the answer to that. I think that Lamar Jackson is one of those rare athletes who's almost before his time. He's so good.
Yeah.
He's just so good. We really don't know where to put him. We know that the young man needs to have the football in his hands because he's dynamic, he's electrifying. But to say that he's just going to be a quarterback, I don't think the game has evolved enough to accommodate how great of an athlete he is. We saw some similarities with him and Deshaun Watson. One of the things that I thought was great, the Houston Texans and Bill O'Brien changed their offense to accommodate
They built around
Deshaun
it.
Watson's
Absolutely, yeah.
skill set, and you saw how successful he was on record of being able to break 7 NFL records if he wouldn't have been able to get injured. So I think you're going to see the same similarities with Lamar Jackson. I think that the Baltimore Ravens are going to have to find a way to utilize that skill set because they are dynamic, and they're definitely something that you want to be able to utilize because this young man is going to be phenomenal in the NFL. I think he's going to really prove his point when he gets the opportunity to start.
You know, he's such a great athlete. Do you
Yeah.
think that the Baltimore Ravens are going to find a way to put him on the field next year? And if they do they really want to risk who they think is their franchise quarterback of the future at the slot position or in the wide receiver position? Do they really want to roll the dice, or do you say, we're going to give you some snaps at quarterback?
I think they'll definitely give him some snaps.
Okay.
They'll probably develop some packages for him.
Because he's a good enough athlete to where he can do some
Yeah,
things.
we know that. But
Yeah.
I think that he's been very adamant about the fact that he doesn't want to do that because he didn't want that ball rolling. He wants to, I am a quarterback, and this
Yeah.
is the position that I play. There's no question Joe Flacco is going to be the starting quarterback, and rightfully so. We should be the starting quarterback. But I think that they will develop some things, they will implement some things, and let Lamar Jackson get a chance to get out on the football field and tease everybody else
Yeah.
to show just how exciting and electrifying this young man's going to be.
You know, the beautiful thing about Lamar Jackson is that his story is just starting to be written right now.
It really is.
He's going to
Yes.
be a dynamic athlete.
He
All right,
is.
we're going to take a break. When we come back, there's a new football league, Johnny, coming,
There is.
and it's not the XFL.
No, it isn't.
More on that in a moment right here Inside the Locker Room.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation.
America, let's do lunch.
Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
And welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. Gabe Farias, Johnny
Sure.
Walker. Johnny, one of the points of topic we've had over the last few episodes is alternate football
Yeah.
leagues,
Yeah.
not the NFL. There's a new football league that they're talking about that they've established, the Alliance of American Football. It was announced in March of 2018, earlier this year, by Charlie Ebersol, the son of Dick Ebersol, former NBC Sports head. How is this league going to be different from other non-NFL professional football leagues that have happened?
One of the things that stands out to me, Gabe, right off the back is Charlie Ebersol has done an incredible job of looking into the whole dynamics of bringing an additional football league together.
Sure.
From everything that they've done, from the research, understanding what fans are looking for, what are they wanting. He's made mention to how there's 60 million fans that watch the NFL football, and then as soon as the season's over, they've only got 20 million that are completely not watching sports anymore because they love football that much. So those are the crowds that they're going after. I think it's going to be an 8-team league. I think they're taking their time in selecting the cities. And I think also too what he's done is he's also researched what cities will be the best place to have teams, what cities have the most viewers, what cities have the most people that are engaged with football. I think another thing that they did, they've already got a contract set up with CBS, who is going to have one primetime Lions football game that they're going to air a week, and all the rest of the games will be on the CBS network and they'll be streaming. So I think he's also brought together some great people. He's got David Pullen, who is a great executive in the NFL.
Bill Pullen.
Excuse me,
yeah,
I'm sorry,
Bill Pullen,
yes, who is a great executive in the NFL, as well as Troy Polamalu, some ex-NFL players who are coming together and trying to put together a great league, a great concept that's going to be beneficial not only to the owners, but to the players as well as the fans.
2 teams have already been announced.
Mm-hmm.
2 teams have already been announced, Atlanta and Orlando.
Yes.
2 really solid head football coaches. I believe Brad Childress, former Vikings head coach, is going to be handling the duties in Atlanta, who, by the way, I know we talked about it earlier, Michael Vick is going to be their offensive coordinator.
Right?
And if I'm not mistaken, Steve Spurrier is going to handle the reins in the Orlando franchise. 2 really good cities to base this off of. Has there been any insight? Because they say they're going to announce the other 6 teams and the 6 cities in June, in about a month. Have you heard, or do you have any idea what cities might work for this league?
You know what? They've kept it
pretty tight-lipped.
They really have. And I think that's also a good idea too. I know that they're definitely going to have a team in the West Coast area.
You would think,
because Rick Neuheisel is supposed to be the coach that they're looking to be in charge of that team that they have in the West Coast. But that's the only thing that we've heard about. We haven't really heard about some of the other cities that they're looking into. So that lets me know that they are really taking their time. They're really trying to make sure that they make the right choices in the right cities that are going to allow this league to be successful.
It's going to be a 10-week season.
Yes.
I believe they're earmarked to start, if I'm not mistaken, a week after the Super Bowl in 2019.
Yes.
This thing is happening pretty quickly.
It is happening pretty quickly, but I think that what people need to know is that they have really done their due diligence in researching and finding out what the best way to do this league. They spent a whole year and a half taking their time, setting it up, bringing in the right people. So I think that with the ties that they already have within the NFL, with having ex-NFL players being a part of their board, I think that's going to help push the NFL toward having some kind of allegiance with this league. And that's what I think it's going to need to take for it to be successful. Everything else is in place. I think that they'll be able to get a nudge. They're going to go out of their way to try to accommodate the NFL. They even are going to have some rule changes that they're going to use that I think they're going to be help the game go along. They're going to take away the extra point. There's not going to be any extra points, so every team has to go for 2. They've eliminated the kickoff. There's not going to be any kickoff. If you want to go, instead of having an onside kick, what they're going to do is they're going to set the ball up on the 35-yard line, and it's going to be 4th and 10. If you get that 10 yards, then you're able to keep the football. So I think they're also trying to speed up the time. They want to make sure that they do away with TV timeouts. So they're doing a lot of the things that they need to do to try to make sure that this league is successful, and I like what they're doing.
I really don't necessarily like that kind of stuff, though. It seems like you're taking away from the purity of the game. And again, I'm not going to say that I'm sitting here and I'm a full purist. I like innovation. I like different things, but taking away an extra point.
Yeah.
What's the reasoning behind that? I mean,
Well, to be honest with you, these are some of the things that the NFL has already talked about and discussed. I mean, they're talking
they
about
moved the extra point back to make it a longer kick.
But they're also looking about doing away with the extra point. We also know that the NFL is looking at doing away with the kickoff because of so many injuries that come with the kickoff. So a lot of the rules that they changed, these are already rules that the NFL has already discussed. And they're looking at implementing it into the NFL game. So I think it's a good idea. It's almost like a tester for the NFL. So again, another good plan. I like what they're doing. They're using a lot of the things that the NFL is already looking into changing. They're already going to implement it in their league.
But it's not gimmicky. It's not like, okay, we're going to get rid of the coin toss, so we're going to do a rock paper scissors. Before the game to see who gets the ball first. It's not gimmicky. It's just alterations to the existing rules of the game to try and create efficiencies, if you will.
Oh yeah, and that's the point that you want to make. I think that as long as they stay in allegiance and alliance, for lack of a better word, with the NFL, I think they have a better chance of the NFL getting involved. Because I think for a spring league to be successful, Gabe, you're gonna have to have some kind of backing and support from the NFL. So they're going to have a draft. Their draft is going to be regional, so they're going to be able to select players that are in the region of where their teams are going to be located, and they're looking to be able to get all of the players that didn't make an NFL roster. They're trying to make sure that they have a team for them to be able to play on. So again, they're trying to do everything they can to align themselves with the NFL, and I think that's going to allow them to be successful.
Better shot at existence and success
Yes.
than the XFL.
And be able to prolong the league. I think that's definitely something that's going to have to happen.
All right, great second segment. We're going to take a break. When we come back, the Commission on College Basketball has come back.
Yes.
They've come back with some decisions on some recommendations. All that coming up next on Inside the Locker Room.
Nothing to do this week? Don't miss another event. Go to blacksinsanantonio.com for our event calendar. The home of the largest business directory in San Antonio with an African American focus. Sign up today for our weekly e-blast and text message alerts. Help us make this a better community. Connect, empower, grow.
Planning the right amount of food is hard. The Guestimator makes it easy. Just tell it who's coming and what's for dinner. Then it tells you how much to make. And yes, it even plans for leftovers. Try it at savethefood.com.
And welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. Gabe Farias
sir.
and Johnny Walker. Johnny, a topic we've talked about
Yeah, we have.
is NCAA basketball. The FBI, along with several agencies, found a lot of malpractices, if you will, with the NCAA, with coaches, with recruiting, with paying athletes. So what that brought on was the Commission on College Basketball, led by former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice. Mark Emmert, the NCAA head, moved forward with this. It was prompted by the FBI investigation that they have and some of the things that they found. And they came up with some pretty cool fixes, recommendations, if you will. They're going to recommend that they get rid of the one and done. Can you explain that?
What they're going to do, and really, they're all recommendations. I think
They're all
that's the most
recommendations,
important
that's
thing. Nothing is going to be implemented. They're still in the beginning stages.
Yeah.
One of the things that they wanted to do is they wanted to allow players to have the opportunity to make a sound decision about the potential to be able to play in the NBA,
Sure.
Which I think is fair. That's something that they definitely need to do. They are going to allow these high school players and college players to have agents throughout their time being able to play or their eligibility of playing. And what's going to happen is, as long as they don't sign a professional contract, they'll be able to continue to have their eligibility. And I think that's one great thing that the commission did come up with. Now, doing away with the one and done really is up to the NBA.
Yeah.
The college really didn't have any say so in that. But I think that from what we've gathered, the NBA has been very adamant about doing away with the one and done as well. They think that it's caused a lot of difficulties and a lot of problems, and they're going to see if they're going to try to take care of that as well.
Although he was great at the University of Texas, but a guy like Kevin Durant
Yeah.
should have gone straight into the NBA out of high school. LeBron James should have gone straight into the NBA. Guys like Kevin Garnett,
Yes.
back in the day,
Yeah.
straight into the NBA. But there are stories of kids who think they should go into the NBA, declare themselves eligible for the draft. And the way that the rule stands now, if they do that, they are done. They are barred from playing
They're giving
college
up their
basketball.
eligibility.
This would change that.
Yes, it's definitely going to change that, and I think that's probably one of the best things that we got from
Yeah.
this commission. There's a lot of things that I still don't like. The commission finds a way to avoid addressing actually playing college players. So that's one of the things I didn't like. The commission also did talk about if there's going to be any kind of investigation for any wrongdoing whatsoever when it comes to colleges and administration, they're going to have a neutral outside investigation done, and I think that's great.
Almost like a third party.
Yeah,
to come in
third
and
party's
look at
going
it,
to come in and do the investigation, which I think is also good. One of the other points that I thought that was very important is they addressed the AAU, and they talked about the AAU and its play into some of the problems that we've had in college
Like
basketball.
the Junior Olympics, that type of stuff?
AAU
or-
is the team, the club
club team type
basketball
stuff. Okay,
that
okay.
they've been playing. They address that. They want to try to have some kind of way of monitoring it to have tournaments and things that are set up through the NCAA, having some of the AAU organizations go through the NCAA so that they can monitor more of what's going on when it comes to the AAU. I don't think that's going to work because I think you fall into some of the antitrust laws that play into that. But that was one of the recommendations that they made as well.
One of the things I did like also, one of the recommendations that came out of this was they are going to hold coaches and administrators accountable for not doing the right thing.
That's right. They are going to, what's on the table is they're going to have a lifetime ban. So they will never be able to have an opportunity to be a head coach. Now, from my understanding, they can be an assistant, but they will never be able to be a head coach. And there's going to be a time frame where even if that does happen, they're going to have to sit out a couple of years before they can even try to apply to be an assistant coach at the college level. So I think that's one of the great things that they've done. They need to start holding more people accountable. I would like to see them also do something to be able to hold the shoe contract or the shoe companies accountable for some of the things that are going on, because they play a big role in that as well. One of the things that they're going to require is that there's going to be a lot more transparency when it comes to the funds that sneaker companies are giving the colleges and what's going on with those contracts. Because I think that's another thing that needs to be addressed as well, and they're going to address that.
A lot of great recommendations.
A
lot of good stuff.
Sounds really good.
But
Sounds
at the
great.
end of the day, is it all fool's gold if they don't address paying college athletes?
As far as I'm concerned, it is, because that's one of the biggest issues. That's why a lot of the things that we're seeing. Yeah, exactly. That's why a lot of the problems that we're seeing. And here again, I know they want to point the finger at some of these student athletes, and they want to get upset and their families and whatnot. But if the NCAA is making billions of dollars, and they're
Billions
making
with
it
a B.
with a big B,
With the
and they're
all
making
caps.
it off the student athletes that are going to play. How can you not allow them to make some kind of money? I mean, how can you justify that? And the commission doesn't address that. They said that they want to address it at a later date.
Sure.
But they don't want to address that now. But to me, that's the essence of the problems that we're having. I mean, that's why we're having the problems that we're having. That's why the FBI probe, and which still isn't up yet. So I think there's going to be a lot of things that are going to come out of that as well. But at least we're trying to do something. I think they've implemented a couple of things that will do well, but those things still have to be voted on, though. So they're just a recommendation at this stage.
You hit it around the head. You said that's the essence of the problematic activity that's taking place. But it's not just basketball. It's all sports.
Yeah, it's college sports.
It's college sports in general.
Football and basketball.
Paying athletes specifically in those two sports. But there are other sports that have some lucrative opportunities as well. Until they address the paying college athletes issue, again, I think it's all fool's gold.
I agree with you. It is fool's gold. I don't think it's very complicated. That's what
I mean, the ring looks nice on my finger, but it's turning it green, is what I'm saying. not this one, baby. I love it. This one's for real.
It's very complicated, Gabe, because there's so many other factors. And the bottom line is that these colleges and the NCAA, they don't want to give up that money.
Yeah.
They don't want to give up that money.
I know.
They don't want to. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, we enjoy making money off of it.
Sure.
But we don't want to give up any money.
That's true.
And once they decide that that's really what's fair and what needs to happen, once they do that, then I think that we'll be able to find a way to make all of this work. But right now, you're going to have to scratch everything else that we've done. We just got to scrap it. We got to just start over and come up with a way collectively to come together and come up with ways to make this work for everybody so everybody can benefit. And that's what needs to happen.
Again, just to start scratching the surface on a very substantive topic.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, good show, my man.
Yes.
All right, that's going to wrap up this edition of Inside the Locker Room. For Johnny Walker, I'm Gabe Farias, and we will see you on the field.